I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this is Dog Ears and Timestamps, a book club podcast.
Yeah. How have you been, man? How's your week?
Week's been alright. It's just work. I wasn't traveling this time, so that was a little bit... I mean, as cool as it was to go to Houston and go to the game, it was still like, I was in an airport most of the day, and that was kind of shitty, because airports are dumb. But yeah, nothing really crazy this week. The end of the baseball season, or the end of the regular season anyways.
Yeah.
What's going on with, I guess you closed on that house, you've just been working with it?
Yeah, but no, I mean, like, when did you find time to read with all the baseball?
When did I read? I was able to actually spread it out a little bit more this time. I was trying to be more conscious of it. I read it a couple of chapters each night as I was getting ready for sleep.
Oh, cool.
And then today, I was running around in the morning. I woke up like at 6 and took my car to like the dealership where I get work done on it because I needed the oil change and all that kind of shit. Just maintenance stuff. Yeah. And while I was waiting on it, I started doing my notes there. And then when I got back to the house, I finished them up. So
nice.
That's how I went about it.
Cool. Yeah. So literally after last week, like right after we sat there and we talked and we made a bunch of predictions and stuff, I was like, man, I have to start listening on the way home. And so that's when I started reading. I probably knocked out like 3. I knocked out probably 3 of the 5 that we read, just on like the drive home, because they were pretty quick. I mean, the first chapter was long, but maybe I just longest of maybe them. I just knocked out the first one, and then like the next ones just flew by. But
because and even in the first one, it changes scenes a couple of times. So if you were like just listening like on the drive or something, I could easily see you like thinking like you went through another chapter at some point.
But so I was listening to a lot just right off the bat, and then just throughout the rest of the week, I didn't listen like at all. I've just been like you were saying, I closed on that house, so like all I've been doing is like fixing up stuff on the house, and then like meeting with repair people to like get them to fix the house, and trying to paint, but then never finding time to paint. But my mom was sweet, and she sent me like a king size bed and bed frame, and so like I built this bed. So I got this huge fucking bed in my room.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then I got a huge yard, so the dogs have plenty of room to play. I don't know, it's just been nice getting ready in the morning. I am a lot further away from work, and I've been waking up later, which doesn't really make any sense. Like I've been waking up later, but it's because I don't have to waste as much time with getting the dogs. Like living in an apartment with dogs. It's way easier
with the house. Just throw them out in the backyard, do all the rest of your shit. Like, get your coffee and shit like that.
And then let them back in like 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, dude, you can do so much. And dude, oh man, it is a game changer. So that has been sweet. Taking tolls is kind of a game changer too. Like no traffic, that's cool, but it's a little pricey. But anyway, my week's been good. I didn't really listen at all until like throughout the week. Like I kind of, for whatever reason, had like a bit of like a stressful weekend. I don't even really remember what was stressing me out, but I just wasn't listening to the book at all, and then I realized it was crunch time like today, and I hadn't finished reading the book. So like I finished listening to it like my first quarter of the day, and then at lunch I started taking notes on it. So like at lunch. No. At lunch, I had started taking notes on it, and I was like reading it and taking thorough notes. And then I re-listened to the whole thing, and then I finished my notes right before we started, and then we talked about them. I don't know. I didn't listen to it as many times, but I felt like I gave it a lot more of a thorough focus. I think I gave it a lot more of a intended focus. Undivided attention.
There's a lot of really interesting stuff that's happening in these chapters too.
Yeah.
Like I know that last episode we started off being like, oh my god, it's getting so fucking good, but it's like we're gonna say it again, it's getting real fucking good.
Yeah. A lot of action's happening and a lot of stuff. I don't know. It was, I guess, less easy to lose your train of thought while you're listening and just stay focused. And so I really felt like I only listened to it twice. Normally I'm like 3-5 times in, and it's like, I don't know, this time I feel like I might have understood it better than before. So, yeah, it was good. Really good.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, you, on the drive home from here after last week recording, you started listening right away. I think after I did the first edit of the episode and then made sure that it was all good to go for me to finish it up in the morning, I read the first chapter that night too. I was so ready to get on with it.
Dude, so can I just say that, like, nah, never mind, we'll talk about it.
This week, we start off, they're hanging out with Islington still. That's where they had just gotten to.
Yeah, drinking wine with Islington.
Do you drink wine? It asked. Richard nodded. I had a little wine once, said Dor hesitantly. My father, he, at dinner, would let us taste it. Islington gives them some wine from Atlantis. They talk a little bit about it. Then Islington asks them what they have come for. Dora says she wants to know why her family was killed. Richard says he wants his life back. Islington gives them a quest to retrieve a key from the Blackfriars that will help them. Islington hands them a figure of the beast. This will bring you safely through the last stage of your journey back to me, it said. The rest is up to you.
I thought that was kind of cool. There was a little scene where Islington was just kind of like, this is the last wine of its kind. And they started drinking it, and she was like, oh, this is amazing. And then Islington was like, and it's the last time you'll ever taste something like that. It's just like, I don't know, it just shows you. I thought it was a girl, and then they identified as a boy here in a minute.
Do they?
Yeah, they start calling it a he here in a second. We'll see, and then I'll show you. But I don't know. I just thought it was kind of douchey. Just like, this is the last you'll ever taste of such a great wine. But anyway, Richard is promised his life back, which is cool, and something that he never thought he'd get back. And anyway, another line I thought that was interesting in there was when Islington was kind of reminiscing about Atlantis, and when Dora said that her dad told her that she could trust Islington. Islington says, I only hope that I can be worthy of that trust. The angel sipped its wine. London below is the second city that I have cared for. The first sank beneath the waves, and there was nothing I could do to prevent it. I know what pain is and loss. You have my sympathies. And, they're talking about her losing her dad, but I don't know. It makes it sound like she failed one city, so she's worried about failing London below.
Yeah, I think that I still don't have a 100% read on Islington and its sort of alignment. Yeah. I don't know what it is that's going on. Is it like a god figure that doesn't always do necessarily what we may consider to be the right thing? Certainly since we're rooting for Richard and Dora. Mm-hmm. Is it doing the thing that it knows to be right for whatever its goals are? Yeah. Almost in the same way that we think that the Marquis is kind of like a neutral character that's just following his own thing. Yeah. Maybe Islington is also doing something that's similar, although Islington probably is a little bit more on the good side of the meter rather than the neutral side overall. It is described as being an angel. And then it just cuts to Richard and Dora, and they're they get sent back at the end of the interaction, after he said the rest is up to you, after giving them the beast figurine, and then there's a rush of wind or something like that, and then they're just out and sitting on the floor of the museum. Yeah, the museum's empty after the gala, the revealing. It's many hours after the party. Yeah. As they're leaving, Richard kind of jokes well, I mean, how hard could it be? We're going to be talking to a bunch of monks. They should just give us the keys. They should just give it to us. And we're talking about doing an angel's work. Right. And it just seems like as they're leaving and they walk, they're getting more and more drunk. It seemed like they weren't super drunk. It hit them. They just get it definitely hit them a little bit. Alcohol actually works. It doesn't hit you right away. Maybe there was some element of them having to also leave the halls for it to really start taking effect. Maybe there was a passage of time that was unknown in just a little transition from Islington's halls to the museum, something like that. Yeah. But obviously they get more drunk as they're exiting. While exiting, they start dancing on the stairs. They are excited about their prospects. Things seem to be going well for the first time. They are also drunk. The scene is supposed to be building a ship for us to put Richard and Dora on as they brush with a chance at romance. Ew. I'm almost 1,000% sure that Richard is 30. And he thinks Dora is 15. We need to. Okay, so I looked it up whenever we were reading the notes. Okay, yeah. How old was Neil Gaiman when he wrote? I didn't look that up. That's what you needed to look up. So the book was written in '94. Okay, and when was Neil Gaiman born? I don't know. Because Neil Gaiman is. As far as the characters go, Richard. I think Richard's either 20 or 21. Okay, that's not terrible. Or not even terrible. That's not bad at all. Because if we're assuming. I mean, we can assume one of two things. Either he went to college or he didn't go to college. We have no idea. I assume yes, college, because he got hired for a pretty BA job. Yeah, that would make sense. But we don't know that his job is necessarily badass. We know that he works at a badass firm. And that's it. I guess that's true. I mean, you don't have to be... He could be entry level for all we know. Yeah. In any case, he leaves Scotland for... his job. We assume what could be a first adult job. He's there for 3 years, so if we assume that he leaves Scotland at adulthood at 18, he's now 21. Okay. even if he's a couple of years later, like he had another job or went to like, you know, part of school or something like that, he's 22, 23. He's within that young 20s range at the very most.
Okay.
Whenever it's describing Dora's age, he says he has no idea how old she is.
I swear to
It says, is she fit? This isn't like the exact words, but I was looking it up earlier, and it says, was she 15, 16, older? He couldn't tell. Is what it says.
See, he thought 15 first. And
I think it's meant to show that or meant to paint a picture of how tiny she is, because at the time she was also emaciated from having not eaten for a long time and stuff like that. Okay. And then she also, it was spending a lot of time, and it still spends a lot of time describing her huge coat that she's always hiding in.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
So I'm just saying the best case scenario, he's 21, she's 17.
Well, that'd be
4-year difference.
Yeah. Okay.
Worst case scenario, it's really weird.
Yeah, okay.
So it's definitely one of the two.
I thought he was like 30 because he like lives in his own house and like fucking has this badass job. He's been dating Jessica, who sounds like she's got some badass job too. Like she's old.
It would make sense if they were both like in their young 20s as well, and that would explain a little bit more about the nature of their relationship. Because putting it into context, it does seem like a young relationship looking backwards. Because I hadn't really thought about their age until now, trying to figure out this weird dynamic that's happening.
They haven't aged Dora. You're right, but like when he said 15, I was like, all right, she's a 15-year-old girl. Like that's how old she is. He better not fucking fall in love with her.
You just latched onto the first number.
Well, you saw. Also too, I thought he was like 30. I'm thinking Neil Gaiman. The picture on the back of this book is a dude that I'm like, I don't want him dating a 15-year-old girl. No offense, Neil Gaiman. If you have a 15-year-old girlfriend, like, more power to you. But, like...
I think that Richard is a character that represents Neil Gaiman as he views himself to some degree. I don't think it's supposed to be a literal interpretation of Neil Gaiman.
Yeah. I guess I shouldn't promote illegal relationships, too, of underage.
For the sake of enjoying the relationship that they're trying to push on us, I'm going to think that it's like 17, 18 to 21, 22.
Yeah, let's assume Dora's like 17 to 21. I'm going to assume
a 4-year difference in
Richard's,
age.
like
an appropriate
20
age.
to 27. All right, that's fair. I'm over it now.
Okay. Anyways,
cut to Krupp and Vandemar.
Yeah, this is, so now we cut directly back
to Carabas.
Yeah, because Carabas is meeting with Krupp and Vandemar. This is where we were saying last time that we were hoping we didn't hear from Carabas again until they meet at the market, but given the events that happened, that's impossible.
I know. I was listening on the drive home, and I literally wanted to text you and be like, dude, we just predicted and asked them not to, and he does it. But I couldn't because it's like, no, we can't talk about the book before we talk about the book.
With the turn of events that goes on, this is probably one of very few ways that it could go, so obviously our way not being one of them. Carabas is meeting with Krupp and Vandemar. He wants information, which he'll trade a Tang Dynasty figurine for, specifically the Spirit of Autumn. Krupp agrees. He collects Tang pieces, apparently. Carabas has 3 questions. And then I have a fairly long excerpt, so bear with me here, because I think that all of this is pretty important. First question. Who are you working for? Oh, that's an easy one, said Mr. Krupp. That's a simple answer. We are working for our employer, who wishes to remain nameless. Humph. Why did you kill Dora's family? Orders from our employer, said Mr. Krupp, his smile becoming more foxy by the moment. Why didn't you kill Dor when you had a chance? Before Mr. Krupp could answer, Mr. Vandemar said, Got to keep her alive. She's the only one that can open the door. Mr. Krupp glared up at his associate. That's it, he said. Tell him everything, why don't you? I wanted a turn, muttered Mr. Candemar, is what I have here. Mr. Candemar. Mr. Candemar sounds a lot nicer than Vandemar. Mm-hmm. Anyways, typo aside. Right, said Mr. Krupp. So you've got 3 answers for all the good that will do you. My first question. Why are you protecting her? Her father saved my life, said the Marquis, honestly. I never paid off my debt to him. I prefer debts to be in my favor. I've got a question, said Vandemar. As have I, Mr. Vandemar. The Upworlder, Richard Mayhew. Why is he traveling with her? Why does she permit it? Sentimentality on her part, said the Marquis to Carabas. He wondered, as he said it, if that was the whole truth. He had begun to wonder whether there might perhaps be more to the Upworlder than met the eye. Now me, said Mr. Vandemar. What number am I thinking of? I beg your pardon? What number am I thinking of? Repeated Mr. Vandemar. It's between 1 and a lot, he added helpfully. 7, said the Marquis. Mr. Vandemar nodded, impressed. Mr. Krupp began. Where is the... But the Marquis shook his head. He said. Now we're getting greedy. After the 3 questions, then the Marquis takes the second part of the bargain that he struck, takes his hour's head start, and leaves the base. At which point, Croup eats the figurine. He doesn't collect them. He enjoys destroying them. He then tells Vandemar to go after Carabas.
Yeah, because I believe the deal was that they, as a team, wouldn't go after him between the hour, but...
It could be a specificity thing to it.
That's what I would assume, just because...
I assume that they just didn't care.
That's probably more likely, but when I first listened, I was like, oh, that's a technicality, because he said, I'm just going to stay here and savor the occasion for a little bit.
It's almost like they didn't care, but that'll hold up in court. So Vandemar takes off after Carabas, and then we jump to Dor and Richard and Hunter. Dor and Richard return to Hunter. They're still drunk. They pass out after updating Hunter. Cut to Carabas. He is running. He knows from Croup and Vandemar. So he never really expected them to give him the full time. Yeah,
he's running like a bat out of hell. He's like, it describes it differently than
I think it describes it. He is running like the hounds of hell are on his tail and have caught his scent or something like that.
Yeah, which is basically exactly what happens because they describe Vandemar very frequently like
a wolf. Yeah.
Yeah,
so very purposeful phrase using the hounds of hell phrase. Cut to the party. Hunter lays Dor and Richard in some hay to sleep. Cut to Carabas.
Tosses Richard.
Well, yeah. Cut to Carabas. He is caught by Croup and Vandemar. Vandemar throws a knife at Carabas, and he is knocked out.
Yeah, hits him in the head with the hilt of the knife. But I like this little scene. Is it an hour yet? Asked Mr. Vandemar. He was sitting on the steps ahead of the Marquis, picking his nails with a knife. Not even close, gasped the Marquis. Felt like an hour, said Mr. Vandemar helpfully. So then just like they caught him and he was like, God damn it, I knew they weren't gonna.
He knew the whole time. He was just hoping to get enough of anything.
Yeah, switching to Vandemar's voice was hard. You did it good earlier.
I tried to just drop everything. Just leave out the emotion.
Here was a fun scene. As it cuts between all the people and their different dreams. It starts with Hunter's dream.
Yeah, she sleeps standing.
Yeah.
She's dreaming about a beast she once hunted beneath Bangkok.
Doesn't Hunter lose the fight in her dream?
No, they just don't fight.
Oh, okay.
That's the difference. Yeah. Because it does, like you're talking about, it talks about suddenly she remembers that in the dream she thinks, oh, this isn't how it happened in real life. And then they start doing like a dance.
Oh, yeah.
Dor stirs, which wakens Hunter. Dor is dreaming of her father. It is a dream combining years of lessons into a single interaction. She opens a padlock. She realizes what it is that is bothering her. Father, she asks, your journal. Who put it away? Who could have hidden it? And then the dream fades.
Oh, cool. My little scene was remembering the padlock being opening, and I thought it was a cool little window into just like how it shows that their magic is, or not, well, I'll call it magic. Their magic is like more instinctual because it's her dad teaching her. He's like, remember, he tells her, the padlock wants to open. All you have to do is let it do what it wants. It sits there in her hand, cold and inert and heavy, and then suddenly she understands, and then somewhere in her heart she lets it be what it wants to be. There's a loud click, and the padlock opens. Her father's smiling. There, she says. Good girl, says her father. That's all there is to opening. Everything else is just technique. So, I don't know. I thought that was a fun little, like, it's all in their instinct. They feel it kind of deep within their heart, and they let the thing be what it wants to be, and it opens up.
Yeah, it is definitely like a natural magic that is, as they've already said, specific to their family.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
The important thing that comes out of that dream is that it brings forth something that the reader may or may not have noticed at the time, which was that they had to find the journal, and Portico presumably dies in the entry that's being made in the journal. So how did it get hidden and put away? Somebody else aside from Portico put it away. So that's a question that...
nice. I didn't even think about that. That was nice. But it was probably the Marquis de Carabas.
Yeah, perhaps.
He just seems to be always doing
it. Could perhaps, at this point, who knows? I think that the most likely thing... and actually, we'll talk about it later because I don't want to get to that reveal yet.
So we cut to Richard Dream.
Yeah, Richard Dream. He's dreaming of the Beast again. That's all he dreams about, apparently. And then
the Beast of London.
Yeah, the Beast of London, which is very prominent in the next few passages.
Yeah.
A splash of water from Hunter wakes him up. He is hungover. Hunter goes to wake Dor much more gently. Dor wakes, also hungover. They are in a stable, the stable of a friend, according to Hunter. Dor sees an insignia that frightens her. She grabs Richard, saying they must leave immediately. They're in Serpentine's home.
Yeah, Serpentine. Serpentine is how I would have read it, but he calls her Serpentine. I don't know if that's
it's
a
just
British
different pronunciations
thing or
of the same thing. Whenever I think of serpentine, I think of the action of serpentining.
What is that?
Whenever you move in a serpentine fashion.
Oh, that's why snakes are scary to people, because subconsciously it doesn't make sense how they're moving forward when they don't have any feet or legs. So that's why it's always been portrayed as like a demon figure. And then psychologists studied it, and then because of the way that it moves, it doesn't make sense to the human brain.
Yeah.
But they actually the reason they bend is because they use each little piece is like a leg that can move forward, which is kind of cool. It blows my mind. They can wiggle through sand and water though. But anyway,
right, yeah.
So let's just assume that Serpentine is a little bit wiggly and she's snake-like. So I don't know why I want to assume that. She just
might as well. Everybody else has some kind of weird feature or
and Dora's freaking out at this
otherworldly
point.
Description.
Yeah,
she's freaking out because she's a dark legend, as we'll see. Calm yourself, said Hunter. But she's Serpentine, wailed Dora. Of the 7 sisters. Evidently, the 7 sisters are to be feared. Hunter worked for Serpentine in the past and has her goodwill. So there's there's a bit of a part where Dora talks about how, and this is actually later after they leave Serpentine's home, but there's a bit where Dora talks about how the 7 sisters and Serpentine specifically are used as what do they call those? There's a specific word for it that I can't remember right now, but whenever you're warning children about behaving and stuff that, you don't want the boogeyman to get you and stuff like that, or Krampus if you're Norwegian.
What was it in Harry Potter? Shoot,
it was Deathly Hallows stuff. They would talk about the Deathly Hallows all the time.
Whenever Richard is talking to Serpentine, that I think she kind of knows that he's still a little drunk and hungover.
Yeah.
So she just starts listing off, and it's funny when you're listening to the audiobook because he reads the list as fast as possible just to try and
there's no punctuation in there.
So it's just like blah, 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 all this gross stuff, and so it makes Richard throw up, and then it cuts to everybody else eating the gross stuff they just said. But
he's still sick. He's still pretty visibly sick. He's not touching anything. And then there's a quote from Serpentine. Your hero is unable to hold his wine, I see, observed Serpentine dispassionately. He's not my hero, said Dora. I'm afraid he is. You learn to recognize the type. Something in the eyes, perhaps. Bringing to the forefront that there's more to Richard than we all initially are led to believe.
Yeah, he's not just the fool. He's the hero now.
He's the one that Dora opened a door to.
That's true. I mean...
So all this stuff is, all these things that they've been saying over and over are, finally coming to be more, at least they're, outright describing it more. He's being described outright as a hero here.
Yeah, which is cool.
Serpentine talks to Dora about Portico, says his talk of uniting the underground was nonsense. She asks Hunter if she is beast hunting, to which Hunter nods. You'll need the spear, of course. So there's some legendary spear that Hunter needs to go get to kill the beast. That'll come up at some point, I'm sure. Richard has brought a restorative to kill his hangover. It works. It tastes of thyme and peppermint and winter's mornings, which sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful drink.
That sounds like exactly what I want to drink every morning. And then that's more or less the end of the time with Serpentine. She outright says, I'm tired of hospitality. I'll see y'all later. She takes off.
Later.
And then Hunter's like, all right, we should get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, and they cut Old Bailey.
Old Bailey is telling jokes to birds. Literally.
Yeah, there's literally a whole page of it.
Yeah, it's like a page and a half. It's a lot of talking about how he's telling jokes to birds.
Yeah, and in the middle of one of his hilarious jokes about a knot, he hears a noise in his tent, and I have a little excerpt that is, here it goes. The small silver box was sitting on top of Old Bailey's treasures. He reached down one gnarly hand and picked it up. A red light rhythmically pulsed and glowed inside it, like a heartbeat, and shone out through the silver filigree, and through the cracks and fastenings. He's in trouble, said Old Bailey. So like that silver box that de Carabas gave him a long time ago. Yeah, it's finally coming up, and it's glowing, and Old Bailey knows he's in trouble. So that was kind of like the whole point of that, is just that Old Bailey is not funny, and that the box is going off. So then cut to our gang.
They finish breakfast and leave Serpentine's, heading for the Blackfriars.
Richard, super positive, said we're having a great day. That was okay. Nice food, and no one was trying to kill us. And then Hunter immediately, I'm sure that will remedy itself as the day goes on. Right. It's just like, thanks, Nancy.
I think that everything that she says is completely matter-of-factly.
Yeah.
Like, like, earlier whenever they come back from Islington and they're drunk, she says, "You've been gone 8 hours." And then the book says, "It was a statement of fact with no reproach or anything." So she's just like, sometimes she's just like a robot. Everything's just matter-of-fact for your information. I don't care to be positive or negative about any of this necessarily, but you need to know this information. I think it's important or whatever. Krupp and Vandemar are waiting for Carabas to come around. At this point, it's just that they have returned to wherever they were going back to after having dragged Carabas back from having knocked him out wherever they caught him. So at this point, they're just waiting for him to become conscious again. And then that's the end of chapter 10. And then we move on to chapter 11. The party is walking along the bank of an underground river. Richard asks Hunter what she is after. Hunter describes several hunts she has been on in the undersides of different cities, and that she is now after the Beast of London.
It's got a very cool description of the Beast of London. She describes it as being a beast that's covered with like spears and blades from past foes that hadn't been able to slay it, and how it was beyond like comprehension almost. It was just a super demonic boar that like destroyed the Undercity.
There's a lot of cool descriptions of the other beasts that she fought, like the bear was under Berlin, like its claws were brown and black from centuries of coated on blood and stuff.
Oh god.
And it's like, man, it's just like he spent an entire day coming up with descriptions for large beasts.
Oh yeah, that probably took him a whole day.
He was like, this will be fun to do, and then just put in as many of them as he could, because it was like 4 different huge beasts that she fought, like 3 or 4, like it was a lot. And now her next big kill is going to be the Beast of London.
She says, "I will kill him or I will die in the attempt."
Introduce the Abbey of the Black Friars and its inhabitants. The abbot thinks about the day, how as a day of his own prophecy, pilgrims will arrive that day. Apparently he's known that the party's going to show up, or just pilgrims in general will arrive that day. He's been dreaming about it. Come back to the party. They're traversing a marsh. They come to a bridge where a monk is waiting. They introduce themselves, then the monk challenges them to a fight. Hunter obliges and beats him handily with her quarterstaff. The abbot calls out from the bridge to halt the fight and permit them to come up. When they meet at the apex of the bridge, Brother Fuliginus poses a riddle.
Brother Fuliginus, the reason we picked the book, guys. He's here. He's finally here. Brother Fuliginus. Oh, man. It's so good to finally be here. Like, I knew we'd be here, and we finally made it. I turn my head, and you may go where you want. I turn it again, and you will rot. I have no face, but I live or die. By my crooked teeth, who am I? So
Doris solves the riddle after a bit of thinking. The answer is a key.
Ah, that's what they're going for. That's so obvious, too, because that's what they're going for.
It's almost like...
I didn't even know it was a riddle. I thought he was just talking weird. Like, I thought it was just like a prophetic way he was going to open the door so they could get the key or whatever. But it actually was a riddle.
So after they solve the riddle, the abbot steps forward and informs them that Richard must now face the ordeal of the key, the final step of their visit to the abbey.
Yeah, 1 for 1. Everybody has to do it.
Yeah, Hunter and Dor have already completed a step each, so now he has to do another one.
There's a whole page of them like, no, you don't want him. He sucks.
Yeah, as they sort of come to the realization that he's going to have to be the one to do it, Dor's like, oh no. And then they're, trying to convince the abbot to let someone else do it rather than Richard. Richard is also trying to be like, no, I don't, I can't. He knows he can't do anything in this world. He has no, confidence in the craziness of this world.
They're just like, too bad, and they start dragging him off. Right. And basically, when Richard's going off with Brother Fuliginus, he ends up lowering his voice, and he says, look, you can't say no to an angel, especially a man of the cloth like yourself. Why don't we just skip the ordeal bit? If you could just hand it over, I can tell them we ordealed. He's he's like, I'm afraid it doesn't work like that.
They reach a chamber where his picture is taken for a wall of remembrance of the ones who have come before for the ordeal and failed. There are a lot of pictures.
Polaroid pictures too, I believe, because
there's a lot of them, ones that are right there are.
Oh yeah, and then there are drawings.
After that are some drawings, and then the drawings go on forever, basically. Okay. I think the quote at the end of the description of the pictures and drawings, it says, the brothers have been doing this for a long time, or something like that.
Have been at this a very long time.
And cut back to Dor and Hunter. She is talking about how she should have found Carabas first before coming to the abbey. Hunter is coming up with ways to get them away from the monks if a fight breaks out. Hunter asks Dor if she trusts Carabas. Dor does, and remembers a time when her father told her she could. You saw him? Asked her father. She nodded. He calls himself the Marquis de Carabas, he said. He's a fraud and a cheat and possibly even something of a monster. If you're ever in trouble, go to him. He will protect you, girl. He has to. So then that's another reference from Dor's point of view of how the Carabas has to protect her because, as we already know from Carabas saying it, Portico saved his life at some point.
Yeah, that's how much she truly believes in him. So we cut back to the Marquis de Carabas. He is being crucified on an X-shaped wooden construction made by Vandemar, and it's made from old pallets and a chair.
Yeah,
and a wooden gate.
So he's on the crucifix. He's been feigning unconsciousness for some time, but after Vandemar tries to rouse him, he decides he has gained all he can for now with the feint. He spits blood onto Vandemar, hoping that they will now hurry and kill him.
Yeah, the Marquis de Carabas was not a good man, and he knew himself well enough to be perfectly certain that he was not a brave man. He had long since decided that the world, above or below, was a place that wished to be deceived, and to this end, he had named himself from a lie and a fairy tale, and created himself, his clothes, his manner, his carriage, as a grand joke. There was a dull pain in his wrists and his feet, finding it harder and harder to breathe. There was nothing more to be gained by feigning unconsciousness, and he raised his head as best he could, and spat a glob of scarlet blood into Mr. Vandemar's face.
Cut back to the abbot and Richard and Fuliginus. The abbot offers Richard some tea as part of a bit of a ceremony that they have prior to the ordeal. Richard is suspicious of the tea, but this is part of the ordeal. Brother Fuliginus took the abbot's hands and placed a cup of tea in them. In a manner of speaking, said the abbot, we always like to give the seekers a cup of tea before they start. Part of the ordeal for us, not for you.
Yeah, seems like they're kind of getting off to here.
I don't think they're getting off.
I don't know, man.
I think that
it's they know he's gonna die. It's well, let's give him some tea. But the
whole time that they talk about how a lot of them die, the abbot is constantly regretting that some of them don't die, and that it would be kinder for them to die. I don't think that they're getting off on any of this. I think that they're forcing themselves to sit down and have the tea with the seeker is them having to confront the fact that they're putting this person basically to death.
Okay, I guess it could be making it harder on themselves.
Yeah, they want to try to, because they don't have to pay anything.
I don't know,
but
Richard,
if they sit down and have a conversation, they have to pay a little bit of their own humanity to do this.
I guess that makes it a little better for me then. Richard is not having it though. He's like, I don't care. I don't want this tea. Let's go. I want to get this ordeal done with.
Yeah, he's basically already resigned himself to probably dying.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Because, he learns that's the fate. If he doesn't pass the ordeal, he dies.
Richard is ready to get the ordeal over with. After an unsuccessful attempt to gain any edge through information on the ordeal from the abbot, he misquotes Macbeth, lead on Macduff. After Richard enters the room where the ordeal takes place, the abbot mentions that Richard misquoted, but that he didn't have the heart to correct him.
That's awesome.
The misquote from Macbeth, this is a pretty common misquote that I've seen, and that I've also just seen in a list of common misquotes of Shakespearean plays and stuff like that. This is typically one of the ones that makes these stupid, pretentious lists. Actual quote is lay on Macduff. Saying lead on Macduff sort of leads you to believe that somebody's saying, well, lead the way and I'll follow, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
What actually happens in that scene is Macbeth says, lay on Macduff, because they're about to engage in a fight. And so he's saying, all right, come at me, have at thee, on guard, that sort of thing.
Double misused it.
Yeah, so it's completely different meaning or whatever.
Hilarious.
Chapter 12. Richard is in the ordeal. He envisions himself on a train platform. He seems to not know he is in the ordeal. He sees Gary and Jessica and himself. They are all admittedly himself. His mind is manifesting something that he can talk to. He talks to them. They try to convince him to give up the craziness. There's a few time skips, putting Richard in different positions on the platform, continuing to talk to a hallucination.
Yeah, Richard was kind of mean to himself. Gary and Jessica and other Richard were they're all saying oh, hey, Richard, you don't have any friends. Your life is a joke. And after I broke up with you, you fell apart. And now you're a homeless, crazy person. We're trying to help you.
He pretty desperately wants to convince himself to get out of the underworld.
Yeah, they keep saying that, this is the closest you've ever been to sanity. Just focus, you're crazy. You've gone crazy.
At a point, the signs of the platform are pushing Richard to throw himself in front of a train and end it all. He is almost swayed, but finds the bead from Anesthesia's necklace that he kept. Richard is brought back to his present mind. The train he nearly jumped in front of stops, and he gets on.
I swear to God it said he got on a train with a bunch of dead bodies.
Yeah, he does. Well, the train doors open and the passengers that are on the train look as if they're corpses. And then it has a statement, or it says something about perhaps some of the corpses were some of the previous seekers.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like a morgue. The carriage smelled like a morgue might do at the end of a long, hot summer day during the course of which refrigeration equipment had failed for good. Richard had no idea who he was anymore, no idea what was or what was not true, nor whether he was brave or cowardly, mad or sane. But he knew the next thing he had to do. He stepped onto the train, and all the lights went out. So he's basically like, I guess I'm gonna die. That's what I would think. You know, that seems kind of like alright, this is him hopping on death train, you know?
Yeah, I think that he's come to the conclusion that whatever it is that's going to happen, it's not something that he should be making the decision on.
Yeah.
So, like he shouldn't be the one deciding that he's going to end it so he doesn't jump in front of the train, but he's just going to go with whatever it is that's going on. And so when the train stops and opens in front of him, he's, well, this is where we're going, and gets on. So then the abbot and brother Fuliginus enter the chamber of the ordeal, expecting to find Richard dead, like pretty much everybody else that goes through the ordeal. He is not. This is the section we read as a sample when we were choosing which book to read.
Yeah, that was awesome. And now we know.
Yeah, now we know what it was that happened.
Totally worth it.
They return to the bridge, and Richard shows Dora and Hunter that he is successful and has the key.
Hunter scrutinized him, trying to work out what had changed. His center of balance had moved lower, become more centered. No, it was more than that. He looked less boyish. He looked as if he had begun to grow up.
As they leave, the monks watch them go. "We have lost the key," said the abbot to himself as much as to any of them. "God help us all."
Like, why would he be worried about giving a key to the Angel Islington? You know what I mean? Like,
because the potentially, and this is lends itself to what I was talking about earlier, where Islington's plan for everything may not necessarily be beneficial to everybody that we care about. To everybody in even this time period, but is the greater decision for the whole of humanity or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Angeldom.
So it's sort of like because you know in every religion there's an idea that man doesn't know divinity's plan, and that divinity's plan may not have necessarily your best interest in mind, or at least your best interest by your own standard. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
So there's I think that's part of what made me think that Islington might not necessarily be aligned with what we as the reader want, and we'll find out because now he's it's been revealed that he is.
Wait, no, not yet.
Yeah, not yet. It's about to be. That's exactly what we're going into right now. Actually, at the beginning of
chapter 13.
So Islington is dreaming of Atlantis, the lost city that he loved. He wakes and walks to the pool of water in his halls. He uses the pool to call Croup and Vandemar. Croup answers the phone that is ringing.
What?
Islington informs him that Dora has obtained the key, and that he wishes her to be given safe passage on her return to Islington. Croup complains, but accepts the order, then asks about Carabas. Islington says he is no longer needed and can be killed. The call ends.
It's like, wait, what? That was like right when like the monks, it's like the monks that made us go through all this shit. And then we're like, oh, what are they bitching about? And then it's like, oh shit, Islington is the bad guy now? Now he's the boss or the governor? He's the governor?
Question mark bad. We don't know that it's necessarily bad.
He hired Croup and Vandemar. That seems pretty
We don't know
bad.
what the end goal is. It's like I was just talking
true.
about.
No, you're right. It just feels like, oh my god, why didn't anybody just tell the truth?
It's also not that dramatic of a reveal for it to just be an evil reveal. If it was
I took it like that, so it was for me, but I guess you're right. It wasn't. I guess it could just be alluding to anything.
Typically, and obviously not every time, but usually a reveal of a character that we trusted to be truly evil and just whatever is a little bit more dramatic, and like, you know, he shows up at the end at the big fight and is like, hey, I'm here to help the bad guys or something like that. You know, it's way more dramatic, whereas this is before even the climax of the story is being revealed. So it's a little out of place for him to, in traditional storytelling mechanics, it's a little out of place for it to be that he's purely evil.
maybe.
The reveal doesn't fit a typical story structure.
Okay, I'll give Islington a little bit more faith, but I think he is.
We'll definitely see what happens, but
yeah, for sure. And
my current theory is either the sort of the whole like divine plan thing, maybe not being what any one individual necessarily wants, but is the better plan for everything, or with all the emphasis of Atlantis, he's got some sort of plan to bring back Atlantis because that's all he cares about. And so he has corrupted himself.
I feel like
he's doing what he thinks is a good thing by bringing back Atlantis at the expense of all else.
I think he's got plans to destroy the Undercity, like to destroy London below.
For what reason?
Because he destroyed Atlantis. He's like a destruction angel. He's not a good angel. I think he's a
bad
guy.
He talks about how Atlantis was destroyed and there was nothing he could do, and it hurt him, though.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I'm just like...
I feel like you're making things up because you initially thought that he's an evil reveal.
Yeah, that could be it, but I'm just going to stick to my guns, just like how I think Gary's going to come back and be more relevant than he just was instead of calling Richard an asshole.
Right. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Anyway.
This is a first novel, so it doesn't have to follow my assumptions.
Yeah, no, and I want to throw my guess out there. So, where are we?
So, after he finished talking with Krupp and Vandemar, call-ins, cuts to Krupp and Vandemar, who spend a few pages talking about and then disposing the Marquis' corpse.
Oh, yeah.
And then we jump to the party. The party is traveling through the tunnels. Hunter catches a small boy that is dashing past to ask where the next floating market is. Belfast tonight. Cut to Carabas. His body is floating by some rats. The rats notice, and one runs to it and examines it. Cut to Richard, who's asking about the market. How do you know that kid was telling you the truth about the market? He asked. It's not something anyone down here ever lies about. I don't think we can lie about it. She paused. The market's special. Yeah, so and then like almost immediately after that, somebody comes slithering out of the passageways, and she's like, hey, do you know when the next floating market is? And then Hunter's like, yeah, it's at, where was it again? It's at the Belfast, and it's tonight. It's at the Belfast tonight. See, the only way you can the only way you can not tell somebody is if you immediately forget where it is. Right. This is, so this person that comes out of the shadows is a Velvet, is what we find out. Yeah, Richard asked about her because he had seen her at the last market. After they disappear. Yeah. This is one that Richard remembers seeing at the last market. She seems interested in him while asking about the next market. Richard notes that she has the most amazing eyes, the color of foxgloves. The rat that checked out Carabas's corpse enters a place described as the Lair of the Golden. The Golden are a group of super important rats, apparently. He relays the message of Carabas's corpse, and one of the Golden gives an order. Introduce sewer folk, silent people that live in the sewers. They are fishing for whatever comes down the water for selling at the market. Yep. Short little passage about all these things. Yeah, just we're short descriptions. Introducing people. This is all just setting up what's going to happen. Yeah. A lot of it really doesn't matter beyond literal setup. Until now. Jump to Old Bailey, who is doing laundry or something. I can't remember. The same rat we've been following shows up and tells him about Carabas. Bailey grabs a bunch of stuff for bargaining, as well as a little silver box, and then he takes the rat with him on the way to tonight's market. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. This little rat comes up, bosses him around, tells him he's got to go do something. Yeah, the rats seem to have figured out that the sewer folk will be recovering Carabas's corpse, and so they go tell Bailey so that he can go bargain for it. Yeah, because there's some things rats can't do. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, right. They very likely know that Bailey has a silver box as well. Yeah, the rats seem to know just about everything. Yeah, rats are pretty into which makes sense in this book. But yeah, anyway, so Old Bailey agrees to do it, and he listens to... Yeah, because that's the favor that he owes Carabas. The sewer folk find Carabas's corpse, called it, and strip it of most of its clothing and possession. Yeah, they remove the coat, the boots, the gold pocket watch, and the contents of the coat pockets, although they left the rest of the clothes on the corpse. I'll note that this means they have also taken possession of the beast figure Carabas had, so it's a good thing Islington gave Door one to help them later on. Yeah. Or is it? Because we don't actually know what that does yet. Yeah, who knows? Because it's the beast of London. What if it just conjures it or something? Ugh. Yeah, who knows what it does. And then the very last little passage in this section, Will, if you want to talk about it? It cuts back to the party, and Richard asks... Are you sure the Marquis will be at the market? Richard asked Dor, as the path began slowly to climb. He won't let us down, she said, as confidently as she could. I'm sure he'll be there.
Should have had a ... after that, because every single time at the end of a chapter, it's like, I wonder if this will happen, and then it's like, it shows you what's actually happening. But anyway.
Chapter 14.
Yes, chapter 14, the last one that we were allowed to read for the week.
The HMS Belfast is the location of tonight's market. The party walks through the market, searching for Carabas. They run into a smith who Dor knows personally. They exchange greetings and introductions. Richard finds himself feeling jealous of the smith for having known Dor since she was young, which is a classic shipping technique.
Yeah, why is he jealous of that?
Because he's starting to have, even if it's just unconscious still, feelings for Dor. And so he wants to know everything that he can about her. And he would know so much more if he had known her from the beginning. Which, if they're in a similar age, means that he would also have been young.
I'm more accepting of it now that you've explained they could be similar age.
The
first time I read that, I was like, why the fuck does he care? She's way too young, you 30-plus-year-old Neil Gaiman.
You gotta put everything into context.
I gotta re-put it into context, because I did put it into context the first time, just the wrong context. One wrong little context, and they lead you astray.
Dor asks him and Hunter to go find food for them while she asks the smith for some favors. Hunter does not want to leave Dor. Dor brings up the market truce. As Richard and Hunter go in search of food, Richard asks about the market truce, and it hasn't been broken in 3 centuries, and it sounds pretty bad if you break it. They walk by Carabas's corpse at the sewer folks' stall.
Yeah, it sounds like super awful if you break it. Like, you spend like a whole page describing how bad it was.
Then we jump to Old Bailey, who is at the market. He finds the sewer folks' stall and bargains for Carabas's corpse. He trades a 3/4 full bottle of Chanel No. 5.
Oh, that is hilarious, because the sewer folks smell like asshole. So, you know what I mean? Like, they live in the sewer, and then he brings a bottle of Chanel No. 5, and he's like, ooh, you guys want some stink pretty? And they're like, they just flip out over it. It's like the best deal ever. Like, they'll give him anything almost. And so they trade the Carabas's body. I don't even know if they knew it was a Marquis body, but it seems like Marquis means like a magician or a wizard or a mage, like kind of in this book.
A marquis is just a position.
Oh, it is?
Like a title.
Damn, I was treating it like a wizard.
So Richard and Hunter are ordering curry. The velvet that they met earlier gets Richard's attention. They talk a little bit. There's a part where she says, I do not eat curry. And she laughs. There's in this little conversation, there's a reference to Bela Lugosi, a reference to how cold she is. Her name is Lamia. So the obvious thing is that the Velvets are vampires / Lamias / succubi / whatever other similar myths there are that exist.
Yeah, it just alludes to her being untrustworthy. Hunter doesn't like her. I mean, Hunter is like...
Well, it super heavily alludes to that she's a vampire or a vampire analog.
Oh, yeah. And
Bela Lugosi is the actor who played Dracula in the 1931 movie.
Oh, nice.
And
how did you know that?
It's just so in the same way that there was a time in my life where I was a big Anglophile, there was a time in my life when I was obsessed with vampires.
Is that pre or post Twilight?
Pre-Twilight.
Oh, nice.
I was ahead of the curve.
Did you read Twilight?
I did, ultimately, on yours and Reed's recommendation.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's
good enough.
It's worth one read.
Yeah, it's worth one read. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One read, and that's good enough.
And then you're like, yeah, I'll remember that story forever.
And then it talks about how she's freezing cold, so that's, dead giveaway vampire stuff.
Yeah.
Her name is Lamia. A Lamia is a myth of, like, a snake-like creature that, like a succubus, tricks young men into helping them like satiate their lust, and then they eat the young men.
Yeah.
So it's all these creatures, vampires, Lamias, succubi, other things that may be the same. They all basically have the same deal where they bang people and then kill them.
Just a little fun fact for everyone out there. My doctor's name is Lamia. So I don't want to give her a full name.
Is she half snake?
I sure hope not. She seems real sweet. I don't know, she could be. She took my blood last time, so...
Oh.
She just, like, takes it in the back room and...
Right.
He's deficient in...
She doesn't even have to send it off for testing. She just knows. That's probably like some sort of shitty CW show.
That'd be a good promo for Dr. Lamia. Anyway, so we cut to Old Bailey.
What happens in that conversation is that she convinces Richard that she would be a good guide for them.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, sorry.
Because he's her mark. She wants to eat him or whatever it is that
she wants something.
Velvet's do in this universe.
Yeah, and she's like, I want a favor from Richard, so I'll guide you guys to where you want to go. And Richard's like, well, we don't have,
Yeah, Richard's very much like, well, we don't have the marquee. We don't know where we're going. Why wouldn't it be a problem?
Yeah.
And Hunter's like, in the same way that Hunter didn't want to bring him on board in the beginning, she's like, it's completely needless. We're adding
more
potential
mouths to
issues.
Feed.
And so then now we cut to Old Bailey.
Yeah, now we cut to Bailey,
who has dragged Carabas's corpse to a remaining section of the London Wall. There's about a page and a half describing what the London Wall and why it exists.
Basically, all I got out of that was that it's a small little wall, but it's high enough to where
what's
Old
left
Bailey,
is a small little wall.
Yeah, it's like a 15-foot high thing.
Yeah, and
just it's high enough for Old Bailey to be still a roof man at heart, So that's basically what I got out of the 2 pages of the description of the London Wall.
Yeah. It's like a lot of other weird descriptions in this book, longer than they need to be, and ultimately,
I think they do it for the I don't know, like for the American reader, because we don't really know that much about the layout of any of that over there. Like I would have had no idea that the London Wall was run down and 15 foot tall, but
yeah, but all you'd have to say is just that.
Yeah,
the London Wall is now not what it used to be. But in this section was still as much as 15 feet tall, which was enough for Old Bailey. As opposed to this history of why it was created because the Roman emperor at the time's wife got upset whenever she went to parties and people were like, oh, we have great walls in our cities. What is your wall like?
Well, look at what you
no
just
one
learned,
needs any
Will.
of that shit.
Look at what you learned. Look at what you learned.
It doesn't provide anything for the story is what I'm saying. Much like there's other times that sort of same thing happens in this book. It's interesting stuff, is needlessly interesting stuff that I'm always into no matter what the setting, but for the sake of the story, it does nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Basically, though, at this point, Old Bailey knows that it is time to use the silver box, and him and, I believe, Black Rat, what's his name?
It doesn't have a name. It's not given one.
I think it just calls it the Black Rat. Yeah. Pulled out the Black
Brings
Rat.
Brings out the rat. The rat instructs him on what to do. Bailey places the box on Carabas's chest, opens it, and smashes the large duck egg that's inside it with his fork. He's got a fork.
Toasting fork.
Toasting fork.
So what I imagined was like roasting marshmallows over fires, that kind of fork.
Yeah.
Anyway, it describes this awesome gust of
the egg implodes and it makes a big whoop or something is what it says. And then there's a few seconds of silence and then the wind.
Yeah, and then this amazing gust of wind, which I felt like was almost conjuring like the soul of the Marquis back into his body. It was super cool. It was a really good description, I thought. I really enjoyed it.
I've got it right here. There was a great stillness for several seconds after that. Then the wind began. It had no direction, but seemed somehow to be coming from everywhere, a swirling sudden gale. Fallen leaves, newspaper pages, all the city's detritus blew up from the ground and was driven through the air. The wind touched the surface of the Thames and carried the cold water into the sky in a fine and driving spray. It was a mad wind, a dangerous, crazy wind. The stall holders on deck of the Belfast cursed it and clutched their possessions to stop them blowing away. Skip a little bit. High on the remnant of the London Wall, the silence that followed the wind was in its way. As loud as the wind had been, it was broken by a cough, a horrid, wet coughing. This was followed by the sound of someone awkwardly rolling over, and then the sound of someone being terribly and obscenely sick. The Marquis back.
That was cool, man. It was like the wind blew life back into him, and he coughed. It's like a baby being born,
I think it says that he spends several minutes throwing up the sewer and staining the sides of the London Wall that he's throwing up over.
Gross.
At this point, the rat leaves after having seen all that. It would tell the Golden all favors had been repaid, all debts were done.
Yeah, that was cool. It's like the rats owe the Marquis nothing. Their debt is paid.
This is what the Marquis was telling Old Bailey long ago. The rats will tell you what to do with it because the rats owed him a favor, and he knew that this was going to be the favor that the rats ended up using to pay everything off.
Yeah, one little convo between Old Bailey and the Marquis that I have underlined was, "What'd you have to go and get yourself killed for anyway? That's what I want to know," asked Old Bailey. "Information," whispered the Marquis. "People tell you so much more when they know you're just about to be dead, and then they talk around you when you are." So that assumes that the Marquis could still even hear them or collect old memories while he was dead. But I don't know. The Marquis just got endless magic.
Cut to Dor. Dor's receiving a chain from the smith that he just made for her to place the key on. In return, she solves a puzzle box that he had not known was broken. There's a toad in there. It's seemingly pointless. It's just a little bit to basically to let us know that she got the chain that they had been talking about earlier, and it's just a nice little interaction.
There was a drawer inside the box, which he pulled open. The small toad in the drawer croaked and looked about itself with copper eyes, curiously. The hammersmith's face fell. I was hoping it would be diamonds and pearls, he said. Dor said, keep him, Hammersmith. He'll bring you luck. And thank you again. I know I can rely on your discretion. So, I don't know. I like the little toad that they brought in.
Yeah. Who knows if it matters? Yeah,
it probably won't, but I feel like if he made this into a series, it would matter. The toad would be something like for a book 2 or book 3, like if he made it into that would be like a little Easter egg that he would be laying down for future groundwork.
Right, maybe so. So then we cut back to Carabas and the Marquis.
Yeah.
Or cut back to Carabas and Bailey. Carabas and Bailey are hanging out just a bit. Carabas asks where the market is, and then when Bailey tells him it's at the HMS Belfast right over there, Carabas starts walking towards it. As he's leaving, he says, it would seem, old Bailey, that I owe you a favor. Then we jump back to Richard and Hunter, who are returning with the curry. Dora's hugging Richard a lot and very tightly these days. Pats his bottom this time as well. She's obviously in a very good mood after all the positive stuff that has happened in short subsequence. Also, gotta keep that ship sailing. Richard convinces the girls to let Lamia guide them to Islington. Even Lamia is apprehensive about the destination, which she says is at the bottom of Down Street and dangerous. But she's got a man to eat in return, so she's all about it.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody's been warning them it's the long, hard way, so Lamia is probably like, well, I mean, fuck, if I have to take you there. But I don't think she really plans on taking him. She probably just wants her little man cake and it's going to run off.
Right.
But,
and then at the end of all that, quick cut to Carabas right as this chapter ends. When Carabas reached the market, the party was gone.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that's the end of chapter 14. And the end of the penultimate episode of our Neverwhere reading.
Yeah, so we have till the end of the book. So I guess, we'll close it out. If you want to follow us on Twitter at ears_stamps. You can get us at Gmail at dogearsandtimestamps@gmail.com. Will just made us an Instagram.
It's going to be at ears_stamps as well.
Yeah, so, and we're going to be trying to post a little bit more frequently. So you guys tell your friends if you're enjoying the show. Like, please, please, please promote it. We don't have any other promotion other than you guys and what little social media following we have right now. So anyway, if we could get your help and if we could get comments, let us know what you think of the show. If you have any book recommendations, if you want us to read some more of anything, just let us know. Talk to us. We'd love to hear it.
I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this was Dog Ears and Timestamps. We'll see you next week.